You're going to be rusty.
I'm going to be rusty.
What do you talk about movies all the time? You're never not talking about movies. You go to sleep talking about movies. You wake up talking about movies.
There's a difference in talking about movies that have like historical
that you like,
context,
that are good.
You like, and then there's another with talking about movies that are new. They're a part of the culture. They're a part of the zeitgeist now. And sometimes you don't like them because of that, and why they're being made.
Why indeed?
Why indeed?
So we're back. We were gone for a while for various reasons that are boring and unimportant.
I spilled coffee on myself.
That's okay, buddy. Nobody cares.
No,
nobody cares. They know that you're a man of the people.
Yeah,
you're a fucking man of the people.
That's what it is.
What's that lawyer movie where Dustin Hoffman smudges mustard on his tie so he can show them that he's the man of the people?
Is it the Rain Man?
It could be Rainmaker. Was he the
Rainmaker?
Rainmaker? I was going to say not Rain Man.
That's what it was. Rainmaker.
It's not Rain Man.
Rainmaker?
It could be in the Rainmaker. Well, I just remember a scene where he smudges mustard on his tie because he's like, I got to show him, I'm one of them. I'm a man of the people.
Yeah. Well,
you're a man of the people.
That's what I did.
You're the man of the people. So yeah, thankfully they don't make many good movies, so we don't really miss out on much. I mean, you've seen some actual movies.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about, I guess, Lightyear and Top Gun. We're really late to the party in Top Gun, only slightly late to the party on Lightyear, if party it can be called.
Yeah.
I guess we should probably talk about Lightyear first. I have more to say about that movie.
Yeah, you do. All right.
I
have a lot to say about it, too.
I've got, and it's newer. I was gonna
prompt it and say one of these movies made me gay. Which one do you think?
That is really hard. I mean, it's got to be Top Gun. Top Gun is clearly, although this Top Gun not as homoerotic as the original.
No,
the original's super homoerotic.
Super.
This one, not really very. I mean. Jennifer Connelly, where have you been? You're still looking good.
Still looking great.
Still looking good.
Yeah.
But the homoerotic tension diminished, I think, by the more inclusive nature of the team. Right?
Yes,
right?
And no.
Because it's not all dudes.
I felt like it was saturated. Like they didn't want it to be as sexy as the original. Like they were. Yeah, almost,
although ironically enough, Tom Cruise's relationship in this is significantly more believable than the one with Kelly McGillis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this relationship at least seems to have some normal human qualities,
and yet also a little trite. But we'll get
yeah. But we're jumping ahead. Let's talk about Lightyear. Let's talk about the new Pixar movie Lightyear. You know what this movie made me think of?
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in the history of sort of cinema or self-referential cinema is when Francis Ford Coppola says about Apocalypse Now, this movie isn't about Vietnam, this movie is Vietnam.
Okay,
are you familiar? Have you ever heard that quote?
Yes, I have.
So I think that's a very insightful and often misunderstood quote. Coppola is not saying that the movie is like the definitive Vietnam movie. It's based on an old book.
Yeah.
What he's trying to say is that the movie is a metaphor for the war in Vietnam and for colonialism generally, and like Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, I think
also
it's
psychologically what that experience must have been.
Yeah, what that does to the colonizer as well as the colonized. And I think the movie, along with Heart of Darkness, the book by Joseph Conrad, stands as great anti-colonial documents, right? About just what it is and just what happens when you go into a situation thinking you're going to do whatever your intentions are, whatever you think you're going to do, this is what actually happens. And what it does to them, what it does to you, to kind of, and how this character of Kurtz ultimately sort of embodies kind of the project, right? The colonial project.
Yeah, very true.
At its sort of most basic, right? And once you kind of strip away all the sort of high-minded rhetoric about like bringing whatever noble culture to the savages or whatever it is you think you're doing. So Lightyear is America, right? Lightyear is America today. It's boring. It's profoundly out of gas, profoundly out of ideas, sort of recycling and recombining old ideas in ways that don't make sense and don't really cohere in any useful or interesting way. It is from certainly this. I think Pixar is probably the seminal movie studio of our lifetimes, right? I mean, A24 has emerged as a real home of good cinema. But if I think about my whole life, Pixar has made a lot of movies, and a lot of them are very good. Some of them are great. This is a bad movie.
This is a very bad movie.
And it's bad in so many ways, and it's bad in a way that makes me hate Disney Corp, because this movie just stinks.
Yeah.
It just stinks of really the Marvelification of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, there's a lot of things about this movie that struck me as gross and unpleasant. But for me, the most gross thing was how every single moment was undercut with some sort of a quip.
Yeah.
Every moment. They could not have an emotional moment, have a dramatic moment, have an impactful moment without it immediately being followed by some joke that was come up with in some writer's room to be charitable, or maybe by a fucking computer, because they weren't funny.
Yeah.
And you'd think that Disney could at least hire people who are funny, right, with all their fucking money. I'm rhyming now, funny and money. It's great.
It is great.
But literally every moment. It's like if they were to make Star Wars today, they would have Luke Skywalker make a clever joke after blowing up the fucking Death Star.
Yeah, they would.
They would 100% do that.
Yeah.
It would be. They would never be able to just unironically. And that is the one thing that Pixar has always done well. And even in a, like, Turning Red, which I think we both liked at least.
Yes.
Like, takes more seriously the issues that it is presenting.
Yeah.
As well it should, because they're serious issues.
Yeah.
And Pixar movies have always been good at getting in the gnarly, sort of difficult, challenging, emotional aspects of life in ways that are honest, even when they're meant to be funny.
I agree.
Like, the stakes are real. You feel, in Turning Red, you feel her frustration, her pain. You feel the sort of generational pain of, like, that is put on women to be perfect, and what that kind of does to them. That movie takes that subject matter way more seriously than this movie takes the survival of these people.
Yeah. Well, and what you're setting up, I think, begs and asks the question, why make Lightyear at all?
We know the answer to that, right?
Well, we know the answer, but getting down to it is very important, because I actually don't think it's, because when this movie opens up, it says this is the movie that a young boy saw. It's his favorite movie, and that's the
this is no child's favorite movie.
This is no adult's favorite movie. This is bad. This is a bad movie, and it gets down to, if you're going to do that reason, if you're going to venture a 90s kid's enthrallment with the grand scale of movies of its time, with a hero at the center of it that you fall in love with, this is not that movie at all. Stylistically, I mean, this is not a 90s blockbuster at all. It does not feel that way. As you pointed out, it's America of today rather than America of the 90s.
And we're doing spoilers. And the fact that it attempts a sort of lame quasi Empire Strikes Back twist would make kids hate it even more.
Well, and getting into that also, so stylistically it's wrong. It's not a 90s film. It doesn't feel like a 90s film. It doesn't have the live action feel of a 90s film. It's not fun. It's like a Nolan movie mixed with the
Shrek.
kind of somber elements that then you could then equate with maybe Shrek, like a Shrek.
Yeah, because like Shrek, which is, along with Toy Story, probably the two most influential animated movies of our time, for better or worse. So. Right? This is a Shrek movie with a Toy Story skin, because it literally, yes, it has these somber moments, but they're always, like I said, it's always got to be a joke.
Yeah. Well, and this is a big problem, because the movie is too modern. This is not a 90s movie. It's too modern. It has all of these things that are representative.
Are you using modern as a stand-in for crappy?
Modern, like in the sense
garbage?
that it is of our time versus that decade. And that could arguably be garbage.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like a lot of the conversation about this movie is going to get lost in, like, some sort of culture war bullshit about being lesbians, and, like, whatever.
That's ridiculous.
Whatever. Yeah. Put in the lesbians. Put in the trans people. Put them all in. I'm all. I mean, like, people care about representation, and I get it. Like, yeah. I get it. I mean, I had, I felt the same way about Black Panther, which is a much better movie than this, although still a movie that I have real issues with.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want representation, 100%. Go for it. I'm sorry that representation had to come in this form, right? Where it doesn't really serve the story. It seems like a totally cynical attempt to just like throw in something.
It's almost patronizing.
Yeah, it doesn't drive the story in any meaningful sense. That being said, it's fine. Like
it's very
innocuous. Like gay people, lesbian people, trans people, whoever, they should get to be in crappy marginal movies like everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Just like the straights and the whites, we've had all our fucking crappy marginal movies. Like that's when I always say when like any given identity group has made it when their marginal members start to succeed.
Yeah.
Exceptional people will succeed, right? But once the marginal shit starts to be a success, that's when okay, now we're getting there.
Yeah.
Now progress has been made. So by all means, put people for no reason in marginal movies, but like I'm sure that part of the narrative that Disney tells themselves about this movie is, well, we're promoting representation, right? But like, we'll promote it in a good movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like no amount of like identity politics sort of pander is going to make this movie not just a mediocre, not even mediocre, it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's a bad mess of a movie.
Well, it's wild to get caught up in the conversations or to peruse conversations online about this issue.
Get off the internet, buddy.
I know you got it. Well, but it's good for understanding.
I mean, I don't even need to look because I just know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
I've my mental algorithm is so finely attuned that I can simply foresee every point and counterpoint
and
around
basically
this whole
people are
conversation.
saying there that it's putting that into the movie is going to corrupt children. You get that
Jesus Christ,
which is wild to me. It's
oh god, yeah. It's when you hear these people, it's like everyone, they're just telling on themselves, right? Because like basically they think everyone is gay, and they just need like one to see one gay person, and they'll be like, that's it, that's for me.
I did see a good joke about the putting in the lesbian couple into Lightyear and that it's not doing financially well. That someone said Pixar has now scrapped the plans of Brokeback Woody. Which, Woody and Prospector find themselves.
Well, I mean, Toy Story is a love story between Buzz and Woody.
Right? Absolutely.
So the most classic sort of buddy conceit imaginable, which is really an argument for keeping it simple, right? Which maybe they could have benefited from in this movie.
Well, and so getting into this movie, as soon as it started, I'm like, oh, so if this is supposed to be the movie that won over a child in the 90s and had a plethora of toys made out of it, and nothing about that was convincing. One, the movie's too convoluted. I mean, it has a whole, like, this time distillation.
Yeah, it's several movies at once. There's a real abrupt break between, like, the whole first act involving him, like, whizzing through all these tests. Well, and then the subsequent conflict.
Well,
right?
It's funny, right? The 90s wouldn't have this narrative trajectory. This is what I mean by modern. In the 90s, Buzz Lightyear would have messed up and then done whatever he could to make it succeed, and he would be the hero of the movie by his lonesome. But the whole movie is the arc is cutting him down to accept a team, to accept others, to not do things himself. Like, it's so interesting to me because he would be kind of the embodiment. He would be kind of like the Will Smith in Independence Day, and he'd have maybe one partner like the Jeff Goldblum who counters him in intelligence versus bravado. The movie plays into what a kind of more modern sensibility that it takes a team rather than it takes an individual.
But I mean, I'm sure. Let's think about it, right? I mean, like even. Yeah, I mean, I'm less caught up on that, which I don't feel so much about, than just like the inherent like badness of this movie for any era.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean. So basically, they're trying to reconstitute previous successes, right? The most obvious being Toy Story. The most obvious, this kind of high concept of idea of, oh, this is the movie that he watched. Well, which is clearly like the idea that looks good on a memo to someone in a fucking suit who's like, oh, that's a great idea, before anyone's actually thought, like, well, what's the fucking movie?
Well, and I think that's what happened if you really break down what's going on in this movie, where it's two people in space, essentially two people who are awoken and leading a mission, and they deviate from the mission or deviate home to venture a planet, and they get marooned, and then in the attempts to kind of find in their survival, find a way off the planet, he sacrifices essentially his friendship, his life, and they get to live out, because every time he goes out, 4 years, and that montage is supposed to be kind of an Up montage where it's kind of brutal.
It's
sad.
100% lifted from Up.
Yeah, absolutely. Where he's missing out, he's dedicated to the mission. She's living now a life, and then she ends up dead. And that's heavy. That's heavy for any kind of movie. That's heavy for a children's movie. Heavy for a Buzz Lightyear movie. I was not expecting it to go that way. But it also then struck me, I'm like, oh, this was a pitched sci-fi story in the writer's room for probably an original story for Pixar. And a suit or somebody came up with the idea, well, if we put an IP on it, maybe we can get it made.
Yeah, we got this shit. It's golden.
Yeah.
We can't let it go to waste.
Yeah, and you put Lightyear, you put Lightyear on that, and then you come up with any sort of story. Oh, it's the live action movie that Andy saw, and that's what got him to love the toy. And I don't believe that for a second. The movie's too boring. It's too convoluted. The twist doesn't make any sense in regards to anybody liking it.
Yeah, they don't even try to square that circle, which whatever. Like at that point, I couldn't have cared much less.
Shocking. It was shocking to me how little they cared to make that make sense. And then you're telling me all these kids wanted a Buzz toy and not any of the partner toys of the team. But also, most notably,
I'd want the old convict. That's the toy I want.
I want socks.
Well, no, socks is the obvious. Well,
any kid would
you'll be able to get a socks.
You'd be able to get. You can get socks now.
Yeah,
that's the toy they're selling now.
Yes, of course.
But that's it. Just conceptually, I think I found it clearly to be a lazy one. That it probably was an original concept conceived, slap an IP on it, and then not contend with the consequences of that. You take it back to even not even a couple years after Toy Story comes out. You have an animated series called Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and that was sold conceptually as this was the serial, or this was the movie, or this was the character that Andy fell in love with, and that makes more sense. It's more adventurism. It's more of it's very fun animation. It's not like the greatest thing Disney's ever done,
but also it reflects an understanding of what could be interesting here. Like the problem is, like the whole point in Toy Story of Buzz Lightyear is that he's a fucking moron.
Yeah.
Right, and he needs to become less of a moron.
Yes.
Like him and Woody, right? It's a classic buddy movie synthesis thing, right? Where it's like Woody needs to embrace Buzz's like sense of adventure or whatever, sense of purpose, right? And Buzz needs to like get off his high horse and kind of be with the people, right?
Understand.
Not place himself. Classic premise, but the point is that the Buzz Lightyear of this movie, right, is a moron. He's a moron.
Yeah.
Like he's a self-involved moron, right? And, like, you could imagine doing funny things with that character, interesting, entertaining, adventurous things with that character at 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 25 minutes at a stretch. Not for a feature-length movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is the problem with this movie, is that it doesn't understand its character.
Nope.
Who's not a good character to hang a feature movie on, but even setting that aside, doesn't understand him. Doesn't understand what it's doing. And so all it can do is reconstitute parts of better movies. But when it does that, it doesn't even know how to utilize those.
No,
Take, for example, the Up montage, which is exactly what it is. It's just a straight lift from Up. It's the exact same idea. Like, isn't life precious? Isn't life fleeting? Of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who argues with that? But the point of Up is that montage then puts us in the position of what now?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Buzz does not appreciate the impact of that montage until maybe the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's wild to me.
Which is such a perfect encapsulation of what's going on in this movie. Nothing matters. Like, he gets the message, but he doesn't get it because he doesn't internalize it.
Yeah.
And he just keeps being the same dumb brute until the very end. Like, you can't run that montage and have the character, like, say, like, oh, isn't that sad? But be otherwise unaffected and unchanged by it. Mm-hmm. It just shows such a lack of understanding about just basic storytelling, which is that this happened, so that changed the characters, so then they do this.
Yeah.
This is not complicated shit. This is basic shit. We know that the old man, whatever the I forget what his name is in Up, like,
Carl.
He doesn't know what to do with himself.
I think it's Carl.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
He feels bereft because he's lost this woman that is the love of his life, and he thinks about his whole life. And what does he do? Well, he doesn't just sit around and keep on being himself. He fucking puts his house in the air.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, he does something drastic and extreme and weird because he sees his life flash before him, and he's like, well, I gotta fucking rip up the playbook and do something completely different. Do something insane, right?
Yeah.
Because
for her, for us,
but also
memory.
because I have no more, like, my maps are all like, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to do something dramatic and extreme.
Yeah.
Right? Buzz is like, I feel these things, but I'm just going to keep on plugging along in the same way, and I don't need other people, and I don't need help.
Yeah.
Which is just a total contrivance to add in a bunch of fucking conflict and business between him and this dopey crew.
Yeah.
That doesn't work, that is just emotionally dead. Yeah. Right? That you don't care about because they're just there for jokes and quips
and silliness
and bullshit.
Well, and you, as just as you're speaking, like, the convincing nature of his change is so unconvincing. Like, he
doesn't change.
The fact that he involves them and relies on a team is the whole change. You're right. Ultimately, he doesn't change because he has still his ego, his perception. But this idea where they get caught and they need to use their bodies, the body weight to get out of a precarious situation, all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, no, you're my team, more so than he was in the beginning. Like, they're just select moments that are so quick and flimsy that narratively it's not convincing, and ultimately it results in no change in the end.
Yeah, well, because, like, Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story realizes ultimately that through the course of the movie, in a convincing and stepwise way, as one does in an actual story, if you actually care about the fucking telling of the story, that, like, he needs to befriend people. He does need to become a part of a team,
and
right?
Also accept his existential reality. Like, he thinks he's a space ranger who's has a captain or a friendship with Andy, when everyone around him is like, you're absolutely insane. And his awakening is and this is Pixar at its heyday, and when it really works, funny but also meaningful. Like, but Buzz's, like, lapse into madness is very funny, but also you could understand it as being very quite profound in what he's actually going through.
Yeah, no. One thing about this movie that is very modern and is shitty is this complete bifurcation. Like literally, like I said, this movie reeks of overdevelopment, COVID overdevelopment, millions of writing rooms, millions of just stinky, gross rooms full of alleged comedians, alleged funny people. Drinking coffee and punching up scripts. That's what this movie reeks of. Just punched up to within an inch of its life, right? Punched up to meaninglessness, punched up to absolute insanity, where even the most dramatic moments are just undercut immediately by a quip. Snacks, that's what I'll always remember about this movie. Snacks, like, he just saves his fucking life, and like 3 seconds later, dumb dude is saying, I mean, that's all they are to me. There's dumb dude, convict. I don't know what these people's names are, and I do not care.
Well,
I do not care about any of these characters.
It's really funny. Even Taika Waititi, who voices funny guy. He was asked who his character's name was, and he was like, I don't know, I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I mean, nobody cared. I don't think anybody really cared what they were doing.
Disney is like someone who has enough money to have sex with anyone, but has literally no idea how to have sex.
Sure.
Like will literally try to put their dick in someone's ear because they just have no idea how to do it. Like they can get every person on the planet. They're like the Yankees in the heyday. They're like George Steinbrenner. They can get whoever they want. Like I remember the joke after 9/11 is like, who should they send for Osama bin Laden? George Steinbrenner, because you can get any man he wants, right? They have it. They have all the money in the world. They can hire anyone. They can hire everyone. They can hire every brilliant person in the world, but they don't know what to do with it because because this is just shit. This is the apotheosis of, and they're ruining Pixar. Don't ruin Pixar. Like, keep on making your fucking terrible Marvel movies.
Well, and it's wild.
Like, just whatever. I don't care about that. Maybe some of them will even be good. At least occasionally one of those ones is good. Like, but this is, you're ruining. You're like this is like you're desecrating the temple here. You're like you're just. I don't want to be overly dramatic. I mean, not all Pixar movies are great. And the name doesn't mean anything, right? That's the thing about, Disney is such a big brand, but like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Right? They need, honestly, like, them buying Pixar was probably terrible for everyone because at the end of the day, what we need is a Don Bluth. We need someone to come along who's outside their system, but can make the thing that they want to make, but better.
I agree. And what's wild to me as you're describing this is that Lightyear is the first Pixar movie in a while to come out in theaters, and it's because of I honestly think it's the IP of it all. Lightyear has a larger IP and recognition than Turning Red, than Luca,
Toy
than
Story.
Soul.
Toy Story is the franchise.
Yeah,
that's the franchise.
Yeah,
like they built. That is what it's built on. They could make Toy Story. They made Toy Story 4. They can make Toy Story 14.
Yeah,
right. People will see it. People love these characters. Yeah. And you know what? That's a testimony to the fact that all those movies are good. They're all good.
All four of them.
They're all good. In fact, I don't... Even though I like some of the Pixar movies that people don't like Good Dinosaur. I think that's an underrated movie.
If somebody asked me if I thought this was worse or better than Good Dinosaur, I think this is worse.
This is much worse than Good Dinosaur. Yeah. Good Dinosaur is like an actual story.
Yeah.
Like with actual emotional stakes.
And I have to tell you, the first time I saw Good Dinosaur and in a theater, and the animation of its environment, it looked so real. Like the water running in the canyons, the actual soil on the ground. I was baffled by how detailed the animation of Good Dinosaur was.
Whereas this movie is even in some ways a failure on the technical level. I did not like the attempts to make it. Like, I thought that the doing more cinematic looking animation, Disney did better in something like Raya, where they kind of grained it up and made it look interesting.
Yeah.
This, they tried to do all this like depth of field stuff that just did not work for me. It was an attempt to make it look cinematic.
Of the coloration.
But they also tried to make it look like cinematically realistic with the kind of like using like lens effects and stuff like that. None of that shit worked for me. I mean, obviously it's competently made in that sense. Like the animation is not bad.
Well, they have a great. They have a lot of money, and they have a big and capable animation.
Yes, they have once again, they have all the best people.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Pixar is where every animator, I'm sure, wants to work. I'm sure they can get whatever the hundreds of the best people are, they're going to go work for Disney, and they probably want to work for Pixar.
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. They can get people. They can do the shit. But like, if the story is this bad, it just does not matter. It just doesn't, and that is the bottom line with this movie, is that nothing that happens in it matters.
No, it doesn't.
And it just has
not to the character, not to us, not to the concept that they're creating for Andy and otherwise. It just doesn't work.
And that goes back to why this movie is America, because it's just all sound and fury signifying nothing. It's all just it has no idea what it is. It's loud. It's loud and angry in every direction, but it has no core.
Yeah.
It has no sense of itself. And it has nothing to say. This movie ultimately has it says different things at different moments because it thinks that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then it discards them. Like I said, it has this emotional montage that means nothing. Right? How can you have what seems to be the thematic core of this movie basically presented on the nose? And I would say at maybe the 25, 30-minute mark, and have that revelation have no impact.
And
It's literally like if I came here and I told you that like your girlfriend was actually having my child and you just went about your day.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, or no, let's have you do that to me. That seems less creepy. You told me.
Yes.
It worked this time. No, I was. Yeah, we're back. I was making a joke about impregnating your girlfriend.
Yeah, that's really that was it.
And it not mattering because nothing matters in the world of Lightyear. Nothing matters.
Well,
nothing means anything.
And ultimately, just this whole thing, in the movie, it really bothered me. And like you said, nothing matters, but it still bothers me that even with all the money, even with all the best people, even with everything going with it, and having a 4-movie franchise to build up any sort of notions and ideas that the beloved character of Andy, and how he perceives Buzz Lightyear, and that perception should resonate in the movie. Ultimately, the character is not anything special, but also the whole the building of the world, the building that of the narrative that Buzz Lightyear in this fictional reality. They don't even do that well.
No.
Because the villain of the movie, and this goes into the spoiler territory, but you've already warned people, is that Zurg, which is not evil Emperor Zurg, never spoken of as evil Emperor Zurg, who is the notable main villain and known villainous entity in whatever it is of Buzz Lightyear Star Command,
the Buzz Lightyear verse, the Lightyear verse,
or just the toys and our idea of the toys based off of Andy, even mentioning evil Emperor Zurg in the first Toy Story. Getting a toy version of it in its kind of equal ridiculousness in the second in Toy Story 2. It's very funny. All of this product integration from this world. And then in the movie, it ends up being Buzz from a fragmented timeline who's traveling back in time in order to succeed. And that twist doesn't make any goddamn sense. It doesn't make any sense for the concept for Andy, who would be like, oh, Buzz is Zurg.
It makes zero sense.
It makes zero sense.
It makes zero sense. And I mean, this movie just has very deep copy of a 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 copy feeling to it. Because basically, when you strip it away, the arc for Buzz Lightyear and Lightyear is the same arc for Buzz Lightyear in some ways as in Toy Story, right? But it's just worse.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's not as believable. It's like, okay, you want to humble him. He's got to get humbled. Okay.
Sure.
Fair enough. Right? But it's just like I said, it doesn't happen till the end. The thing that should prompt it doesn't prompt it. You put a lot of emotional weight behind something that won't prompt it. Then eventually you get him there through whatever. Who even cares? Right? Because it's just like his worthless team somehow shows out and he's like, oh, I guess other people matter. It's like I said, it's like the worst aspects of something like Shrek, which is like a bad formula that Pixar up till now has never indulged in, which is really just the formula that Marvel has adopted, right? Which is like every moment needs to have a quip inserted in it.
And pack the screen full of references, pack the screen full of engagement and chaos. And I mean, while this movie is not... we're almost describing a movie that's more exciting than this one. But
a lot of things that are quote unquote exciting now are just fucking dishwater dull.
Yeah.
Right? Which is true. Which gets to the core of it, which is that like there's nothing you can do, right, that will compensate for not having a good story to tell.
Yeah.
Or an interesting, compelling story to tell. There's nothing you can do. There's no amount of IP. There's no amount of writers' rooms. There's no amount of splashy voice actors. Nothing.
We didn't have a lot of splashiness in the voice acting in this.
Well, whatever.
Anyway,
people who are famous, right? I don't give a shit about that. There's nothing you can do if you don't have a story to tell, if you don't have something to say.
And that's what Pixar's been known to be about. Even lesser products out of their camp, such as Luca or The Good Dinosaur, they do have an intent behind them. They are utilizing the imagination and scope of animation to tell a story
Well, yeah.
that can be resonant as moral parables or lessons for children that get you to think about them in fantastical ways, and then ground it in a message that makes sense. And that's not that doesn't exist here.
And they come from a place that is like deeply felt,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And that's why I was so, like, we already had this conversation about Turning Red, but I remain sort of amazed that people say, well, this is such an unrelatable movie. Like, Lightyear is a non-relatable movie. There is nothing to relate to inside it. Like, what makes something relatable is if it comes from a deeply felt place and someone can articulate that feeling, right? And that is the magic of storytelling, is that it can bridge these gaps, right? Unless you're fucking dead inside, right? Which I guess a lot of, like, sort of bog standard, boring ass white men who comment on movies on the internet, which is not us. We're very interesting, but other ones are.
We just don't comment.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? Like they're just like, I don't know. It's so identity, and I don't get blah, blah, whatever. Like, if you say something that is deep, if you're good, you have to be good, right? You have to be good at what you do, right? And you feel it deeply, and you can communicate it, right? Then that can bridge all the gaps. That's the magic of storytelling, right? Is that it can let you spend some time in the head of another person.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It can let you get just a taste. I don't want to overstate the case, but it can let you just a taste. Like, what would it feel like? Like, what would this be like to be this person, to be in this world? And it can use this combination of, like, these movies don't understand the point of humor. The point of humor is to blow open your brain so that I can then make you feel something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, it can work on its own, right? It can work just as humor, but this humor is not funny. So this can't work as a straight comedy. But if it's not a straight comedy, which this isn't, it doesn't aspire to be, right? Then what the humor exists to do is to get you off balance and expose you for the moment. Like take the moment, which always, even just thinking about it, I might get choked up when Buzz Lightyear tries to fly and fails, right? And the Randy Newman song plays in the background. There's nothing funny about that at all. It is incredibly sad. And it's something relatable because we all know that feeling. Because the movie is also about the loss of childhood and the loss of innocence, right? Which is a big Pixar theme. And it's like, or the transition to adolescence, right? That's what Inside Out is about. That's what Turning Red's about. That's what Toy Story is about to some extent. The getting older, losing a bit of that youthful innocence, right?
It continues through the entire franchise.
And all that humor and all that just exposes you for this moment that is just moving and profound and speaks to something very core to the human experience. And this movie Lightyear has nothing to say about the human experience.
Nothing.
And it is as if it was written by aliens, right? Who had some superficial knowledge about human culture and behavior and human stories, but did not understand, like, what is at the core of them.
Yeah.
Because for something to be good, it must have soul. And this is a soulless movie.
It is, yeah.
This is a soulless product.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even call it a movie. It's a product.
It is a product.
It is part of this endless content cream of wheat shit. We get just this content, this like tasteless gruel that they just shoot into the fucking like stream. Right, that is just meant to like take up a couple cycles, right?
Yeah.
It is absolutely created by, and I won't say created because I'm sure that good people touch this. I'm sure there are a lot of good, well-intentioned people who touch this. But what came out of it was an absolute, just formless, just blob.
Soulless is a good word for it because as you watch, it doesn't engage or invite any sort of involvement, emotional, conceptual, or personal, and that is pretty alien to us as people who engage in Pixar in general, because Pixar knows how to make problems, issues, personal, existential or otherwise, into kind of a formulated experience that you can feel and you can grow and you can follow. And that, you're right, it just doesn't exist for this movie, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem, and I hope it's not indicative of where Pixar is going. That this is just one of those sacrificial lambs to, I think it's Pete Docter who's running Pixar now, who is trying to focus on original content, original storytelling.
This should have been like one of those straight-to-video shits like Planes 2 or whatever.
Well,
This
yeah,
should have been a Planes 2 type
And honestly, if I were the animated teams behind Turning Red, Luca, I'd be upset. I'd be upset that this movie got a theatrical release and my movie did
But
not.
also, like, we could have used all this time, all this effort, all this labor making something that didn't suck.
That is absolutely true.
Like, we could have done that. Like, there's another good script in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, there's something good kicking around that studio. There has to be.
There has to be.
And these movies are hard to make. They take money. They take time. They're very labor intensive, right?
It's true.
All of that, all those hours, all that labor, all that money could have been used to make something else. And like I said, even if it's like I will take whatever you think is like, whether it's whichever ones you think don't work as well, right? That aren't on the top tier but are still like original and interesting, Good Dinosaur, Luca, whatever. I'll take 1,000,000 of those over one of these.
Yeah.
Because this movie is just dead.
Yeah.
It is just inert.
Yeah,
right.
I agree, and I don't know if there's much more to say.
No, but I think it's a good. Like, I didn't realize I sort of conceived of us having our little comeback episodes like a kind of state of the cinema, or thinking about where movies are right now, and I can't think of a better compare or contrast than these two movies, which in some ways are shockingly similar.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think you can find plenty of problems with Top Gun, which is a far from perfect movie.
Far from it.
I wouldn't say that it's exactly soulless. I would say it has a simple soul of a child, or perhaps an ape, like some sort of advanced non-human species, a dolphin, perhaps.
Maybe, yeah.
Because we're in the Navy here. We're talking about the Navy, so perhaps we'll pick a nautical animal. But it has something to it.
Yeah.
Because although there are huge chunks of the movie that are forgettable, I wouldn't even say forgettable, kind of laughable. Some of the dialogue very tin-eared.
There's a lot of tin-eared dialogue.
The story could have perhaps been written on a Post-it note.
It absolutely was.
But it is a movie that knows what it is completely committed to the idea of what it is, and has at least moments of legitimate entertainment.
Yeah.
Including the shit in the planes, which I will say, I saw it in Dolby, was really good.
Yeah.
That shit in the planes is is exciting, and it's fun to watch, and it works, and it exploits what is good about going to a movie theater, which is that it is overwhelming. It like there were moments that like got me excited in that movie, even though they were absolutely, completely predictable and unsurprising.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is exactly what makes the movie work is self-awareness. It knows that the narrative is predictable. It knows that the narrative is following sort of a similar vein or a copy formula from the original, but kind of making it kind of an update. It contends with its ridiculousness. That again, the original Top Gun exudes ridiculousness, but doesn't understand that it was being a bit of a propaganda show for the military at the time.
I don't know if it'd be hard not to understand, but I mean, it was before. I mean, the original Top Gun happened before cinema was so. Let's say cinema, where a certain kind of mainstream movies were just unrelentingly, aggressively self-aware.
Yeah.
Right. Which again, I think we can trace back to like the Mike Myers, Shrek, Austin Powers oeuvre, which is where like movies sort of becoming jokes about themselves.
Yeah. About what they're doing, the genres that they are encapsulating.
Became really. But one thing I like about, I agree with you that this movie is in some sense self-aware, although I would maybe even change that a little bit and say it's aware of what it is, because it is not self-aware in the sense that it's winking at the camera or it's making
No,
little
yeah, that's
jokes
not
or
what I
doing
mean by that.
fan service.
Yeah.
Which is like anytime someone thinks like I'm gonna do fan service, maybe they should just be shot out of the ejector seat and forced to swim home.
No, it's not. It's not. What would be hot shots? It's not the hot shots of self-awareness. No, it knows the story it's trying to tell. It knows the capabilities of its lead, and then it kind of basically the writing around that. I mean, Kosinski was directing, and then you got McQuarrie as part of the writing team, and I think it was 3 writers. Knowing when you're making Tom Cruise movies, the stunt-oriented fashion around him, the capabilities of his charm, and kind of utilizing that as where they build around those strengths. That's what they're aware of. They're aware of their limitations, and they're aware of what what the intention of this movie is to be, and that is spectacle-oriented entertainment, which they do deliver. They deliver in all of its sequences a kind of dizzying, involving impact of stunt work and jet maneuvering that is wildly impressive. It's wildly impressive, and if you go for that, you will walk out of the movie having been taken by its allure and taken by its intent. I mean, but then, as it's been like a month since I've seen it, as I sit and think about the script, as I sit and think about performances, as I sit and think about its ludicrous deviations, such as trying to steal a plane under enemy territory and all of that, it becomes silly.
Although it's funny, like that last little turn was the only one that I was at least. I wouldn't exactly say it was surprising, but once they were on the ground, I knew, okay, here's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But at least that was one little moment that I was like, oh, I didn't quite foresee this. Although it is totally ridiculous.
No.
But I mean, I will say like the sequence, which is extremely predictable, right, where he steals the plane to show that like the mission can be done. I still got a little bit of a chill out of that, in spite of the fact that, of course, he's going to take the plane. Of course, he's going to demonstrate that the mission is doable.
Yeah. Oh. This is the beginning, right? The stealth plane or the...
No, I'm talking about the middle sequence.
Oh, the middle sequence.
He wants to show
he's
that...
He's constantly stealing planes.
That's all he does, this motherfucker.
That's pretty much what it is.
It's a real fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, we can't get fooled again situation. Like, I mean, how many planes can this motherfucker steal and just take off in before you're like, well, we can't really have Maverick around.
You're right. The second sequence where he steals it in order to prove that it could be done or that he can do it, it's thrilling because it's not, there's not a question in the audience whether or not he's gonna do it. You are just excited that he is going to do it. Like there's not a lot of tension there, but there's something thrilling about watching. Because I mean that I do like that the movie addresses right in the very beginning. That, and we've had private conversations about this. It's like the military or the military industrial complex, how the foundation it's built upon. Are wars going to be fought with men in planes, or is somebody going to utilize a drone to make these strikes and essentially computerize everything, or hack into the systems of these places and erupt it from within? That's kind of modern warfare trajectory, and you get that with Ed Harris's character at the beginning. He's like, you're a relic, you're archaic, and I like that the movie is contending with that because I think he.
Honestly, I could have dealt with more Ed Harris. I love that crusty old motherfucker.
But I was saying, like, even Tom Cruise's character is kind of wrestling with that, right? Maverick is wrestling with the idea that this is all he has, and also it's not needed. And so his skill, his expertise might not be needed by the kind of foundation and the system that he operates in. And I like that because the movie doesn't take it to deep considerations, but at least character-wise, Tom Cruise has something to chew on, and it takes you through that. He has something to prove constantly through the movie, whether he's holding back, whether he needs to exert more dominance in the situation. All that kind of give and take that he gives as a character is very well articulated in the beginning, and so anything that's kind of basic, formulaic, expected, or that you can guess and predict what's going to happen, it almost doesn't matter because they've done a good job orienting you in what is the character going through in these moments.
Yeah, well, and what's interesting, right, is you bring up the sort of propagandistic nature of it. I mean, this is certainly a piece of propaganda, no doubt.
In some way,
In some ways, but and people have talked about how it's like they don't say who the enemy is. We all know who the enemy is. Whatever.
we do.
Blah, 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 blah. What's interesting about this movie, which is very different than the original movie for all the superficial similarities, is this is actually, in a lot of ways, Tom Cruise saying something both very self-aggrandizing but also potentially true about himself, which is that he's the last movie star. He's the last of his kind in the film industry. It is kind of true,
isn't it? If
right?
you really contend with it.
Like, there is no more Tom Cruise. Like, he is it. And he's probably right. Because the suits matter, the characters matter more than the actors, the costumes matter more than the actors are replaceable. Right? Occasionally you'll have a sort of weird anomaly like Robert Downey Jr. where he'll come in at the front end of that whole comic book thing and he'll be so essential to the whole enterprise. The fact that he is so closely associated with that character that he'll be able to ride that out to like movie star level shit in terms of the money at least, because it makes more sense to write the check than not.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the Chris's will make that happen for themselves or are making that happen for themselves in one way or the other. They'll become enough that character that they have to like, but again, they'll make that money and they'll be stars only so long as they play that character.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That is different with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is bringing an air of stardom and playing, variations on similar characters. I think Hunt, Ethan Hunt and Maverick are similar.
Oh yeah,
similar ideas.
Nobody's gonna mistake this motherfucker for Dustin Hoffman.
No.
Or
but
even Colin Farrell.
But his dedication,
right?
and I
Colin
really
Farrell for that matter.
Colin Farrell, yeah, his dedication to the art of stunts and to the dedication to stunts and how thrilling they can be, especially. It is jaw-dropping to watch him actually fly these jets, and I know he's not doing every single maneuver and every single stunt, and some of them are aided by some digital effects, but they really did work hard to make it practical in every sense of the word, and you can feel that dedication. You can feel there's nothing that replaces that, right? Especially when we talk about we're inundated with CGI. We're inundated with such false realities that when someone takes a fantastical but believable approach to tangible stunts and tangible spectacle, it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, especially seeing it in the theater. Top Gun Maverick is the last movie that I can remember that was equally of that budget consideration and the tenacity that they had with spectacle was Mad Max Fury Road. And you can tell when people are really giving it their all. I'm not saying they're the only two that where spectacle matters and that has been good in the past, but it's of that equitable consideration.
Yeah, although, I mean, Fury Road is legitimately a great film, and this is not.
And that's because Fury Road in its world building is better. Fury Road in what it's trying to say is better.
No,
introducing characters that are really well developed, such as a Furiosa, takes the cake compared to this movie, which they are all narratively and character-wise are very simplistic formula notions. Like,
yes.
The Glenn Powell character, who I love Glenn Powell, and I think he plays. I can't even remember his character though in this movie. Oh, Hangman. He's the Hangman.
Yeah, but we'll just call him all Buttface or Shithead or whatever.
Yeah, sure, whatever they call themselves.
Jimbo.
But like Glenn Powell's Hangman, who is kind of the Iceman equivalent from the early Top Gun, his character change comes out of nowhere and is not necessarily believable to me, as compared to, say, how Val Kilmer is written in a more complex notion from the original. Like, again...
Which is really saying something. To see Iceman as be like the example of of like complex.
Yeah, because
character development.
he's not, but it is more complex, and probably it's the shades of what Val Kilmer brings to a character versus that this one is. These characters are written for the trajectory of spectacle, and again, I can sacrifice that for a good time in the theater. I just don't think that this movie will outlast its theater experience. Like I could even watch it at home. I don't have like a sound system, but even if that did it, it wouldn't be the same. And I would start seeing all the kind of flaws and all of its kind of generic construction.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Because it does, and this is sort of the pulling out to the wider angle, which is kind of what I was thinking about leading into this conversation after our layoff. It's like these movies are two good movies to think about kind of where are we. And I will say that the movie that I am maybe anticipating, I'll say anticipating, right? Like, it's going to be interesting to see what, if anything, James Cameron learned from what was good and what was bad about the original Avatar movie.
Yeah.
Because that is the behemoth that sort of lurks on the horizon.
It really does, doesn't it?
And, like, I wonder if that movie is going to be any good. I hope it's good. Because I will say this for Cameron. I've said it before on here. Like, he there are certain things he does better than anyone.
It's true.
He has certain cinematic gifts and certain cinematic obsessions, right? That are not equal.
Yeah. His obsessions are very unique to him, and therefore they result in something of an experience that is very unique to what he sets out to do.
Yeah,
it's very
true. I mean, Avatar's gonna get re-released, and I will go watch it again in a movie theater. And
I don't know if I'll watch it again.
Yeah.
I saw it twice when it came out, and that was enough.
Yeah, I only saw it the once. I will revisit it in the lead up to the new movies because they're going to give it a theatrical re-release. And in my mind, in terms of creating CGI characters and a CGI world, I don't know that anyone has done it better. Like in terms of the visual realization of it.
Yeah.
Like in making it look real, in making it look, in being invested in the sort of level of detail that it takes to make it look not just splashy, but also look like an actual place inhabited by actual sentient alien beings. I don't know that anyone's done it better. And now he has 10 years plus of his obsession with technology, his obsession with certain cinematic.
4 more movies, I think it is.
I mean, they could be terrible.
Yeah,
like they could be terrible, but I'll go see all of them. I'll see all of them in theaters. And if he learned something about what would make that story interesting, because I don't know who carries the torch forward because this is an American cinematic tradition. This is our cinematic equivalent of popular music, right? Which runs from Howard Hawks and John Ford, through Lucas and Spielberg, to whoever you think are the standard bearers for making big American spectacles, right? And I'm interested to see if there is any juice left in these.
Yeah,
because you still do get. I mean, it's interesting because now we're talking about, Mad Max, George Miller, not an American, right?
No, he is not.
But he is bears forward that tradition with his own kind of avant-garde twist, right? Probably vis-a-vis another sort of vein of these makers of American spectacles. John Carpenter comes to mind, right? Like we have this tradition, right? Which I think is a truly American cinematic tradition, right? Of the kind of, and probably comes from the Western, right? And then the Western becomes science fiction.
Yeah.
And then you get a lot of Western sci-fi hybrids, right? See again Mad Max, of course. See Star Wars for that matter. It's like, I wonder, because I do think that, like, sad to say it, but something like Maverick sort of is kind of in that vein and is near the top of the present heap in terms of the crop of recent movies.
Yeah.
Of anything that is a spectacle, that is a non-comic book spectacle.
I mean, there was talk that once Christopher Nolan did Inception, that there would be a desire for a lot of more big budget, high concept kind of blockbusters that are conceived through the lens of spectacle and are enhanced by this kind of spectacle. Which he, going back and rewatching Inception for my Heist Cons Grifters season, yeah, I mean, some of the set pieces are jaw-dropping and incredible, but even Christopher Nolan is drifting out of this contention, right? I mean, Tenet did not have the buzz, did not have the impact, did not have the continuation, and he also British, but he is kind of making it in an American sensibility here.
But it's interesting because Nolan and Cameron, in a way, I mean, they're tonally have very different instincts.
Yes, yeah.
And I will say that whatever the issues are with Avatar aside, I kind of think that Cameron's tone is a little better. I'm a little more interested in something that has a little more bounce to it, as opposed to Nolan,
Sure.
who's just like, it's just always deathly dark.
Self-serious, yes.
Yeah. I'll take the bitter with the sweet on someone who, like, occasionally makes it goofy. But they both do have certain, like, once again, purely cinematic gifts.
Yeah.
Like whatever I think about Inception, which I think in some ways is too clever by half, like,
I agree.
and not as interesting as it thinks it is in terms of the ideas
100%.
it's presenting.
Yeah.
Those scenes where, like, the city starts folding on itself are as interesting visually as anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and I always use that as an example of, like, good CGI, because it's like, okay, now you're using the computer to do something that is literally impossible.
Yeah.
Right? You're literally doing something that could not be accomplished any other way.
Yeah.
And it's mind-bending.
It
and
is.
It works.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Right? And it is at the limit of, like, what does cinema make possible? And what does CGI make possible, right? Which is like, I don't hate CGI. I don't even hate comic book movies. Just make them good.
Yeah.
Just
I
make
agree.
them good.
I agree. Well, and this is oh, were you going to say something?
No, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling
good too
about our conversation.
Top Gun Maverick to me succeeds in the aims that it sets out. It has it's a narrative framework for spectacle excuse, and it fulfills that. It fulfills that promise. It fulfills that basic kind of element of character. I think you end up caring about a lot of them, even if they are kind of generic constructions. Even Miles Teller comes off as, in all of his fussy annoyances, that I don't like him as an actor.
No. I think
he's not the worst here.
I think he's a fine actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're doing him no favors because they have to make him just so annoying.
Well,
they just take him to. They start him in such, like, an annoying sort of aggrieved place, which is kind of
Top Gun
kind of is irritating.
And this is what helps in this sense of self-awareness. It knows it's melodramatic. It knows it's kind of a male soap opera, melodrama, fixated in the Navy, and it maneuvers that with enough nuance to make you care, even though it's a bit silly.
Yeah.
And that is actually very difficult to do. Kosinski, as director, maneuvers this very well. I think it was well articulated in script form. And I think Tom Cruise knows exactly the kind of movies he wants to attach his name to as producer, as stunt worker, actor, and being involved in these processes. And has teamed up with people like McQuarrie, people like Kosinski. I mean, he did Oblivion with Kosinski. He's done, since Mission Impossible... Rogue Nation, he's been working with McQuarrie. Actually, I think even McQuarrie, maybe he did the script for the fourth one. No, I think Brad Bird did that. I'm not fully well versed in my Mission Impossible history right now, but what I really like about a movie like this is that if you know what your goals are and you go about them competently and with an expertise. I mean, you have to know exactly what is possible and capable with logistics and in kind of maneuvering this world, and they do it very well. And
Yeah.
so it's a movie that succeeds, although I will say it will lapse in my mind because again, it's not contending a lot with what I like about movies, something that makes me think about the world, something that makes me feel for particular characters.
This isn't gonna go into the like gotta rewatch soon bit.
No, not at all. But it
at least goes into the like, okay, that's a couple hours of my life that I enjoyed.
And you will. You will. It's just it's not. I mean, I've already seen people talk about how it should maybe be up for Best Picture of the year, and I think that's silly. I think.
Well,
that's
I mean, who cares about the Oscars?
Yeah, who cares?
Like it's like. Well, my only question with Oscars is who they get to punch someone next.
Yeah. Oh
year.
Yes. Maybe there will be a lineup for.
I think they should all just like draw
be
a
like
straw.
Airplane,
Or like it's like the marbles, like who draws the black marble, like that's the person who has to do something out of pocket
Yeah.
to like make the Oscars big every year.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll make it better.
Who would be the best person to draw the black marble? Who could be nominated for something who I would like to see just go nuts?
Bradley Cooper.
No, that's easy, obvious.
Easy, obvious.
Obvious.
All
No,
right.
it has to be someone really surprising.
Michelle Yeoh.
Like if Jane Campion had punched someone, Michelle Yeoh, she'll get if she doesn't get nominated for Best Actress, that's going to be something we should all riot.
We should all riot. Yeah. I mean, at this point, a high contender.
Yeah, if she just went up and she just bitch slapped someone.
That'd be great.
She bitch slapped. I don't know.
Maybe Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan.
Get him to be a presenter. Have a fight break out.
That's awesome. You think you know kung fu, Jackie Chan?
Be
You
fun.
see him? That's hilarious.
Well, Ben, this was good. This was good.
Back in the saddle.
Back in the saddle. I guess. Do you want to try next week? Do
Let's watch some movies.
Elvis?
Oh God.
You gonna
Maybe we
see
should think about that again.
Elvis? Black Phone. Do you want to do those two?
Elvis Black Phone. Yeah, let's do it. Why
Let's
not?
try it.
Let's
try it out.
let's get that AMC list rolling. Elvis Black Phone. I like Ethan Hawke.
I like Ethan Hawke.
I like Tom Hanks.
I like Tom Hanks.
I like fat Tom Hanks.
We don't know. We'll have to watch to find out. So yeah, let's get back in the saddle. Let's keep doing this. Yeah. So this was good. This was good to get reflect. I think it actually helped my reflection on Top Gun to like visit it a month later to like think about what I actually thought about that movie. Because while I was in the theater, I did enjoy it. Like it was just kind of I let it pass me by. It was enjoyable. I really liked the effects.
It's like good candy.
Yeah.
Like
And then,
candy.
getting into Lightyear, it was rough. I mean, it was a rough watch. I walked out and there was actually an old...
That was like swallowing rocks.
Yeah, I walked out and there was someone who used to work at ArcLight and he now works at that cinema and he goes, Kyle, what'd you think? I was like, it was awful. It was awful. I did not enjoy much of anything about it. Other than Socks. I liked Socks.
Yeah, Socks is good.
Yeah, Socks was good.
Socks is good product.
But yeah, this was great. Let's get back into it, and we'll be more up to date.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully there'll be some cinema worth loving.
Yeah,
Cinephiling.
I'll be on the lookout.
Philo.
Yeah, we got
cinema.
We might have some things coming out that we will enjoy, but it's looking like a dreary summer. But let's try and find it. We'll try and find it. But yeah. Dead Reckoner Substack.
Dead Reckoner, go on the Substack.
Yeah.
Listen to Kyle's million podcasts. He knows movies and you don't. I know movies and you don't.
Yeah.
I'm on it often.
You are.
And we'll see you soon.
See you soon.